Welcome to our Lebanon channel. Lebanon is among the oldest sites of wine production in the world. The Israelite prophet Hosea 780–725 BC is said to have urged his followers to return to God so that they will blossom as the vine and fame be like the wine of Lebanon, their fragrance will be like that of Lebanon. The Phoenicians of its coastal strip were instrumental in spreading wine and viticulture throughout the Mediterranean in ancient times. Despite the many conflicts of the region, the country has an annual production of about 8,500,000 bottles of wine. History. Vitis vinifera may have been domesticated in Lebanon, although it probably arrived from the South Caucasus via Mesopotamia or the Black Sea trade routes. Vines grew readily in the land of Canaan, the coastal strip of today's Lebanon, and the wines of Byblos were exported to Egypt during the Old Kingdom 2686 BC to 2134 BC. The wines of Tyre and Sidon were famous throughout the ancient Mediterranean, although not all the cargoes reached their destination. Robert Ballard of Titanic fame found the wrecks of two Phoenician ships from 750 BC, whose cargo of wine was still intact. As the first great traders of wine, Cherem, the Phoenicians seem to have protected it from oxidation with a layer of olive oil, followed by a seal of pinewood and resin. This may well be the origin of the Greek taste for retsina. The philosophers Zeno of Citium and Chrysippus of Soli are both said to have enjoyed their wine, in fact the latter died from overindulgence. Wine played an important part in Phoenician religion, and the Greek-Roman god Dionysus Bacchus may have originated in the wine rituals of Canaan. Certainly the great temple at Heliopolis Baalbek has many depictions of vines and wine drinking, most famously captured by David Roberts in pictures such as Baalbek, Ruins of the Temple of Bacchus. Such rituals may also have influenced the Greek Bacchae, the Jewish Passover Seder feast and the Christian Eucharist. The Bacchus temple in Baalbek outlines the instrumental role that the Phoenician played in the development of the ancient world around the Mediterranean Sea. Through the widespread peaceful settlements that reached Spain. Genesis chapter 14 verse 18 mentions that the Phoenician king Melchizedek gave bread and wine to Abraham, and Hosea chapter 14 verse 8 suggests, his fame shall be like the wine of Lebanon. Wine also featured heavily in Ugaritic poetry such as the Repiuma. Day long they pour the wine, musk wine, fit for rulers. Wine, sweet and abundant, select wine. The choice wine of Lebanon, most nurtured by. Bottle of Chateau Massar 1999. Once Lebanon became part of the Caliphate, wine production declined, although under the millet system it was tolerated among the Christian population for religious purposes. The Christians also developed Arak, an ouzo-like spirit flavored with aniseed. The first winemaker in Lebanon was Chateau Joseph Spath Chateau Chabat, in 1847 at Aramoun Kesrouan, later following of winemaker at Chateau Kassara in 1857 when Jesuits planted cinsault vines from Algeria at Chateau Kassara near Zaleh in the central Bekaa Valley. In 1868 a French engineer, Eugène-François Brune, set up Domaine des Tourelles, and others followed, notably Gaston Hocque's Château Massar in 1930. The French influence between the world wars promoted a culture of wine drinking, as did the sophisticated Mediterranean culture of Beirut at that time. Frenchman Yves Mourad of Château Kefraya was arrested as a spy during the Israeli invasion, and was only released when he proved to the Israelis that he knew how to make wine. The end of the conflict in the 1990s brought a new momentum to the viticulture, and we could track the renaissance of the Lebanese wines to the setup of Domaine Wardi in 1997 and Masséa in 1998 that marked the active involvement of French wine dynasties in the Bekaa Valley. Back then, the number of producers was around 5 and at present more than 50 wineries are active in Lebanon. The 2006 conflict did not really change the trend, even if some wineries were on the edge of missing the harvest and got collateral damages. However, the media coverage translated into surge in demand during the fighting, as British buyers in particular bought Lebanese wine as a mark of solidarity. Grape varieties. Lebanese winemakers have favored French grapes, particularly Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and Rhône varietals such as Cinsault, Carignan and Grenache. There are also grapes that are specific and indigenous to Lebanon such as Abide and Merwa. Wineries. Most of the major wineries have their vineyards in the southern Bekaa Valley. Château Cassara remains much the biggest, with 70% of all the country's production. It is no longer connected with the Jesuit House of Tannel. It was sold in 1972 and suffered considerably during the Civil War, but has now bounced back with reds and rosés made from Rhône varietals such as Carignan and Cinsault. Next biggest is Château Kefraya, whose majority of shares were bought by Druze politician Walid Jumblat from the de Bustros family in the late 1980s. The former winemaker, Yves Mourad, has now set up Cave Korum nearby. Château Massart is perhaps the best known in the West. It was a particular favorite of Oberon War. Massart achieved international recognition at the Bristol Wine Fair of 1979 and for a long time was the only Lebanese wine widely available in the United Kingdom. The second wine, Hoka, is made in a lighter style for earlier drinking. Château Massart is known for transporting the grapes across the front line during the Civil War. Currently the sector exports over 50% of the production mainly to the United Kingdom, France and the United States. Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe.